want to start or scale your property development business to 8 figures and beyond, then you're in the right place. This is the Property Experts Podcast with Ben Richards and Jack Jiggins, two serial entrepreneurs bringing weekly insights from our award-winning businesses. In these podcasts, you'll learn how we found, funded and delivered over £80 million worth of property in the last 6 years, with templates you can use, deal analysis and deep dive discussions that will help you build your businesses successfully. We hope you'll enjoy.
Hello everyone, welcome back if you are joining us and a repeat listener, and thank you for following us. And if you are new, welcome to our channel. There's obviously a really well put together intro there, so we don't need to do too much of that anymore. But the crux of it are Ben and I are business partners in several businesses, but we also have been running businesses for over a decade in property and construction, service-based businesses, development companies, HMO businesses, and we're here to give you value on the highs and lows and the tips and the tricks that we've allocated into our business to sort of share how we overcome problems. Today's agenda is a really, really good one. We've got some technical stuff and also some tips for business growth and protecting downside. So starting us off, we're going to talk about the understanding of buyer chains. Obviously, if you're selling a property to a property buyer and they're part of the chain, what considerations you need to think about. We're going to be talking about the value of what you pay someone for education. It's a fun story I'll be sharing on that topic and why it is important to consider the cost of education. SuDs and soakaways, spectacular, loads of S's in there. Ben's going to be talking about some sustainable drainage, I'm sure. Then I'll be sharing about protecting the exit and why the gross development value is probably one of the most important figures on a spreadsheet. We'll be talking about our site tour and XP property. We'll also be talking about the cost of debt. Now, obviously, the markets have stabilized a little bit, but we're actually going to be talking about replacement value of cost of debt. We're going to be talking about XP surveys and what we've been up to. And up is a clue. We'll be talking about what are the options if you're in a simple problem, how to come up with some options. And then last but not least, before Q&A, is site visits to our latest land deal. We're back in the buying seat. But yeah, exciting.
Nice. And if you don't know much about us, we're XP Property. We're a developer in London and the home counties, and our aim is to deliver 1,000 homes and $1 billion, that's a billion with a B, pounds in property in the UK, collaborating with trusted investors. Those that know us call us ambitious, transparent and creative, and hopefully that comes through and is shown on these calls. If you're an investor and want to invest in the UK real estate market, then do reach out. I'm sure there's something that we can find to work on with you. So let's crack on with the first topic, and that is something that's come about this week because we've had offers flying in for our Marlow site, and if you've tuned in over the last month, you'd have understood that about a month ago we had our first open day launch for the sales on that scheme, and we had over 50 people walking around on that open day on the Saturday. We had 5 of those 8 properties under offer within 1 week, and then we've had over the last 3 weeks kind of the odd viewing and more offers coming in for some of the other units, which we've now agreed a 6th unit on. But going through that process has made us question or sort of comment around the importance of really getting to grips of your buyer's chain. And if you've been in a chain before and it's fallen through and it's caused you huge amounts of heartache and headache, imagine that happening 8 times on the same development, with the 8 units that you've got to sell. It can be absolutely disastrous if you haven't really understood the speed in which your buyers can perform. So the thing that I really wanted to talk about here is basically making sure that you really get to grips with not only the buyer's chain, the buyer's position, but understanding their chain as well. So it's no good understanding just one link down and being okay and satisfied with their position. You have to understand what's below that, and then below that, and then below that. And for those that are new to kind of sales and going in that haven't maybe sold their first development, for example, there's various kind of strength of buyer, I guess, from our perspective. The first one being cash buyer, nothing to sell, nothing in the way of cash in the bank, ready to put down a deposit and complete on the purchase. Cash buy is brilliant. Then you've probably got maybe a first time buyer with nothing to sell and a mortgage in place, being a pretty strong position because they're not waiting on anyone else other than a surveyor and the lender to kind of do what they need to do. And then it gets into the sort of further down the chain where your buyer's got something to sell, their buyer's got something to sell. You can see how it slowly becomes, or it could become a very, very slow process. And we've mentioned this numerous times, when you're at the tail end of a development is when you're holding your most debt, you're paying the most in interest. So speed of sale is paramount to a successful property development. So understanding the speed in which your buyers can perform is very important. And the dilemma that we've had with one of our units recently is, for example, pulling figures out of the air, on for £340,000, we get an offer for £340, £40,000 for a purchase, but that potential buyer has something to sell. Now, is that property on the market? Is it under offer? Who's the buyer on that side of the chain? Digging into that level of detail, that there is a chain, and going into that is fundamental. And then we've got an offer of £315,000 from a first-time buyer with a mortgage in place. You might think, oh, that's £25,000 difference, but it could be worth agreeing to accept the offer of the lower purchase price for speed, when you're holding those interest costs and you just want to get it sold. So these are the sort of dilemmas that you're going to have to think about, and understanding your buyer chain is going to be fundamental to making the right decision for you. And it's probably worth saying, in our situation, it also depends on how many units you've got sold, if that makes sense. So if you know that 4 or 5 of your 8 unit development, in terms of selling 5 of those 8, gets you redeemed on your loan with your bank, for example, it might be that you're willing to accept a longer time frame for the higher value than if you are really, really strapped, you are paying out of the nose for interest payments, and you just need speed to get that debt off your books and stop the rot of paying even more interest payments. So hopefully that's, Jack, do you have anything to say on that?
I was on another tab trying to unmute myself. Is my mic better?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Just to add to, obviously look at what they're selling. If they're selling a £2.5 million house in a city or town that's got loads of property in that stock, that upper end. So basically, with property values, the higher the value, the slower that market moves, and the lower the value, the quicker that market moves, because people are trading in and out, first-time buyers, moving on, second-time buyers. And almost the value of a property replicates its speed in which it moves. So if you're part of a chain where someone's selling a £2.5 million house to buy your £300,000 flat, you may find that going with someone that's got a chain to downsize from one step up in value or one step down in value would be a lot quicker. So definitely a consideration that needs to be made. And it absolutely mind boggles me, the process that someone can go under offer and waste 6 months of marketing time, and then just pull out just as and when they choose and please to. And it's the bane of our existence, which is, you've got to be really on your onions to make sure that they're really committed to buyer, and you're not going to get any wobbles. Nice.
Cool. The value of what you pay someone for education. I'm interested in this one. What are you saying?
So interestingly, I saw a message actually in the Ground Up network where someone said that they didn't want to come into the group. We do group Q&A in the Ground Up network, and that they didn't feel comfortable coming into the group and would rather a one-to-one. And they're expecting the one-to-one for the subscription cost of £100 per month. And it just made it evidently clear for me that I don't think that monetary value should be wagered against someone giving you knowledge or education or experience or past lived experiences. It should more or less be what that opens up, what that saves in the future, and what that sort of the door that opens. And what I mean by that is, for our non-exec advisor, and I'm going to pluck a random figure out here, but let's just assume our non-exec advisor charges £2,000 for a session. That sounds like a lot of money. And it also might be a lot of money to anyone. But if he saves you a risk of over that amount, or prevents a mistake happening that could cost you more than that in time and then eventually finance, or potentially stress, or whatever it may be, that is typically how we look at our education model. So obviously Ben and I have spent, I think, collectively over 100,000 in education, mentoring, and people helping us get our businesses to where we're at. And I don't think you can compare a educational piece to a pair of trainers, because it's not the same product. You know, wearing a pair of trainers will get you from A to B, but having a mentor that's been there, done that, and worn the t-shirt taken away from it is kind of invaluable, opposed to your sort of output and what you're delivering. If you go and do nothing with it, it might be expensive. If someone says, like, here's all the material to run a £1 billion company, and you end up doing nothing, yeah, it probably is expensive advice. But the principle is you kind of need to take it with a pinch of salt, and if you're in the right hands, it will probably be worth it, as opposed to your growth trajectory, risk, restructuring. I mean, lived experience is if you ask any entrepreneur in the world, you know, what would you do if you wanted to run a, you know, random a clothing like make company? Go there, get a mentor, get a business partner, get someone involved in that industry that's been there, done that, worn the t-shirt. And that is why you see all of these big companies that take CEOs from other businesses that help them scale in that sector that they might not have grown from before. So what I mean, the real question is, how do you value paying for education? You might have a budget. Cool. That's you know, that might tier what type of education you go, whether it's going into a platform where you can learn and watch videos, or whether it's one-to-one education, which is like the most expedited version, because you're getting bespoke help on your own situation, your own business. But the real cost is actually what it's going to save you and what it's going to help you grow, because that's the investment. It's more of an investment than a cost, and that's the way that it needs to be looked at. And I feel that that particular individual in that environment was looking at education as a cost and not an investment. And actually, we have rules in that group, and exactly the activity that he was sort of naysaying, the cost, is not part of the group. And you know, we don't really want to take money from people that just know about direct service. It's about implementation, and you'll often get a lot more back from what was put in the first place.
Nice. Did you draw these little things?
No, but it's like iteration of growth. I found on Google. I thought it was quite cool.
Nice. Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. I am going to blow your brains with soakaways and sustainable drainage systems. You know, I like to throw in a few kind of technical things, because you know, we do get some good feedback on this type of deep dive, and it is just quite prevalent in terms of some of the projects we're going through at the moment, and particularly the old Maltings project. We've discharging some conditions with the planning authority, and there was a condition around sustainable drainage systems. So SuDs, that's what that stands for, sustainable drainage systems. And effectively, we had to go through a whole host of looking at 1 in 100 year floods, plus a 40% contingency for climate change, and all these other criteria. You know, I'm pretty sure the planning officer wouldn't have a clue what the actual criteria mean or do, but their local council drainage guy has obviously said, this is what we want you to abide by in terms of their local plan. So this is what we have to abide by. So it's all about understanding where the surface water will drain and how it will drain. And effectively, there is a hierarchy of things that you will need to consider when looking at SuDs design. So that's the Sustainable Drainage Systems design. And the hierarchy follows the Syria C753 SuDs manual. And effectively, a new development should utilize sustainable urban drainage systems unless there are practical reasons for not doing so. And there's a few steps that you'll need to go through in terms of the hierarchy to determine what you have to install. So first of all is top of the hierarchy is basically zero rainwater off-site. So storing all of the rainwater on site for later use, using water butts, using rainwater recycling, grey water recycling, that type of stuff. And basically meaning that all of the rainwater that goes onto site is kept on site and used on site. Second after that is a soakaway system, which is something I'll jump onto, but it's an infiltration technique, basically. So a soakaway is what you see in this right-hand side, or this is a modern-day soakaway. An old-day soakaway used to be like, dig a hole, throw loads of bricks in it so that there's loads of voids in between the bricks. Hardcore. And let the water go into those, to that pit and soak away. Nowadays, you get these plastic crates which have a sort of void ratio of 90% plus. So when the water goes into that crate and is stored within that crate, it then is stored there until it stops raining, and then it soaks away or infiltrates into the ground. So this image here is quite useful. Rainwater raining on the roof, gutters, taking that rainwater down into the underground pipework. The drainage then leads to a soakaway, which is these soakaway crates, and then the water over time infiltrates into the soil below. And this is what it looks like. They're called aquacell crates. They're normally wrapped in like a geotextile membrane, and then they're dug underground and covered over, and nobody sees them again. But essentially, that's what they're doing. They're taking the rainwater, they're storing it for a little bit of time, and letting it infiltrate into the ground. After that is discharging into a watercourse. A lot of the time, you're not going to have a local watercourse that you can push this into. Then it's discharging rainwater into a surface water sewer stroke drain. And if there are no surface water, dedicated surface water drains within the area, then you can then discharge rainwater into the combined sewer. And a combined sewer is your foul and your surface water. And in London, a lot of the sewage system within London is a combined system. So although you might have on-site separate drainage runs for your foul and your water, by the time it gets to the final manhole on your site, it's often then linking into a combined system effectively. So those are the sort of 5 key hierarchies of a sustainable urban drainage system. That's what a soakaway is. And the key thing to determine how big your soakaway is called a percolation test. So a percolation test should be done, a ground worker should be quite competent in doing it, albeit the ground worker in the old Maltings did it wrong. But effectively you dig a meter by meter by meter hole. So you've got a 1 cubic meter of hole in the ground in 1 or 2 locations of where your where your works are being carried out. You stick some rebar or a stake or something into the sides of those holes at a 75% and a 25% depth. You fill the hole with water, and then you time how long it takes the water to dissipate between the 75th and the 25th stake. So you do that 3 times. You take an average, and that is the figure that you would then give to your civil engineer, who would then design the drainage system for you. When you've got a chalky type substrate soil, generally your water is going to infiltrate far faster than if you are in London and you have a clay type soil where water might not go anywhere, to be honest. So your soakaway in a chalky environment will be far smaller because it doesn't need to store the water for as long, whereas a soakaway in a clay soil or something that's more dense may have to be much larger, or building control might just flat out say there's no point in installing a soakaway anywhere because it's not going to infiltrate within the clay soil. And in that case, they might let you discharge into the combined sewer, for example. Whistle-stop tour into sustainable urban drainage systems and soakaways. Any questions, drop them down below and hopefully I can answer them.
We could actually share a percolation test result if anyone would like to see one. I've got one for my house. And nice. A little hack as well. I didn't dig a meter by a meter because it's really difficult to scratch it out to make a square hole. So I actually dug it with a machine and did it 2 meters long so that you could actually just dig a trench and then you don't have to get in it and clear out the corners and stuff like that. Yeah,
nice. So there is I think it's the BRE 365 guidance in terms of soakaways and percolation tests. Actually, one thing I should say is that I am the face of soakaways when you type in soakaways into Google, because about 4 years ago I did an ad hoc video on one of my Aura sites talking about soakaways and percolation tests, and it's done quite well on YouTube. So when you type soakaways into Google, most of the time there's a video of me on YouTube recommended to watch. So yes, I'm the face of soakaways. Cool. Hopefully that was interesting for people. Probably quite technical and boring for some, but
soaked with information.
Soaked with information, drenched. Cool. On to point number 4.
Yeah,
protecting the exit.
Yes. So this is principally just a bit of a zoom out to zoom in moment that I'd like you to sort of run with analyzing a project. Now, obviously, we have a spreadsheet that's, I don't even know how big it is, 200 input bits of information that we need to put on a deal before we can get an understanding and a feeling of how good that deal is. Essentially, a mentee of ours this week contacted me a little bit panicking about the gross development value that they pulled together for a site because they had kind of overcooked it a little bit. And essentially, they're now delivering a site that they're really going to have to crunch down on the build costs to make sure there's a margin in it, which is somewhat, the nature of our lives. But essentially, what I would like to try and get as a message over to anyone that's bidding on houses, sites, developments, land, whatever it may be, anything to do with property, you need to remember that the gross development value is the biggest number on the page. Therefore, inaccuracies have the biggest impact in your development. So this is what this means. So for people that are listening, I'm going to try and explain what's on screen. So on the left-hand side, you don't need to look at the percentages or details, but there's a pie chart. We have these on every spreadsheet that we do, and we have a rough rule of thumb of I know what we can buy sites for, deliver them for, and exit them for. Typically speaking, our purchase price is about 20% of the gross development value. Typically speaking, on average, our build cost is about 50% of the GDV costs, and the GDV is 100% of the GDV costs. Okay, so we've got 20%, 50%, 100%. The principle behind this is every stone that you overturn to analyze a deal. So you might look at the planning risk, you might look at the build costs, you might look at the gross development value, you might look at the purchase price, you might look at the finance costs, you might look at how it's phased, you might look at the time frame risk. All of these things have got to be justified and understood and really looked at in detail. You can spend weeks on looking at gross development value, or you can spend an hour looking at it. The difference between the two is accuracy. You get more and more accurate the more and more time you spend on part of the deal. What I would implore all of you to do is spend as much time as you can on GDV, the end values, the sales values, the market risk, because one, that's completely out of control. Two, it's the biggest number on the spreadsheet. And if you just hear with me through these numbers, I can explain why the biggest discrepancy in GDV is the biggest problem. So let's just take an example, a £1 million GDV site, just to make it easy, round numbers to work it out. If you're trying to make 20% on that site, that is £200,000 profit. If we've said our build costs is 50%, which is 500k, and our purchase price is 20%, which is 200k, we've got a rough idea of the textbook deal that XP might do, double it in size, and the percentages are similar. But the principle I want you to get out of, if we work out that we've got a 10% discrepancy in the purchase price, so we've overpaid 10%, that has a £20,000 difference to the profit. If we have built the site for 10% more than what we've budgeted, that has a £50,000 impact on the net profit. If we get the GDV wrong from the outset by 10%, that is a £100,000 difference in the profit. So if these are all dialed down correctly, you make 200,000 profit. If your purchase price is 10% out, that would be 180k discrepancy. If the build cost is 10% out, that's 150k net profit. And if the GDV is 10% out, that's 100k loss against that 200k profit. So the principle is, because it's the biggest number on the sheet, the discrepancy is amplified as a bigger problem. So it's just to implore you to spend as much time as you can looking at gross development values. We've discussed in our videos and in episodes before how we go about the valuation process and how we go about making sure that you get a really robust evaluation of the site at the exit. Obviously, you want to be realistic, not optimistic. You can't really be too pessimistic, but it's good to see what that looks like. It's good to also do stress testing, so stress the potential downside or upside, and sensitivity analysis around that. And fundamentally to protect the investment, because if you get the purchase price wrong, the build cost wrong, that is a £70,000 loss in this particular scenario. Whereas if you get the GDV wrong, it's a £100,000 loss. So it's something you should be spending your time on. So again, biggest number on the sheet, spend your time on it, de-risk it as best you can, because the discrepancy will hurt more on the GDV.
Nice. Sound advice. And if you like sound advice like that, then you're in the right place. Everyone that we speak to really enjoy listening to the podcast. We would love, if you do enjoy it, to rate us on Spotify, to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We've had some great ones previously in the last week or so. Can you please issue all of your podcasts on Spotify with the videos moving forward? Absolutely, Gareth. That is done. So every Spotify upload, we now do the full video upload instead of just the audio, so you can actually see these things that we're talking about on screen. Property is a very visual thing, so it's nice to actually look at what we're talking about on screen. So you get that option now on Spotify, and I think we're trying to work out, or have worked out, how to do it on Apple as well. So yeah, if you like the podcast, let us know down in the comments. Subscribe if you're not already. Follow us on whatever platform you're tuning into. It really helps the algorithms to kind of share it wider and get more people listening. So yeah, and if you can just share it with one person, that would go a long way. So thank you very much. Cool. And if you have been tracking us for a couple of years, you'd have seen that over the last 2 years, we've done maybe 2 site visits every year. This one was from, when did we do this one? October last year, maybe, where we had the best part of 30, 40 people on site, showing everyone around our Marlow site, the old maltings, and St Andrew's Court, stopping off halfway around for some food, some nibbles, and some drinks and some chat. But it's a great opportunity for people to understand how these developments go together, learn about how we found it, how we funded it, how we structured it, what we went through in terms of planning permissions, and how things are progressing on site in terms of the actual delivery, building regulations, and all that type of stuff. It's a great chance to answer questions. We are doing an invite only event on the 24th of April 2025. So that's a Thursday, 24th of April, where we will be showing again, hopefully another 30, 40 people around our sites, with the chance for you guys to answer any questions, ask any questions that you may have. So super excited about that. We will probably do one later in the year as well. But these specific sites that we're going to go back to are, finished. So by the time it comes to 24th of April, if we haven't sold, 4 or 5 of the flats at Marlow, for example, I would be surprised. So there might be an opportunity to get in there before some of those sales go through, and we're a little bit more cautious about who and how many people we take around the sites. But we've got plenty of other sites that are either starting or midway through construction that we can share and show.
One we might be sprinkling a little bit of later on in the call today.
True, very true. Stay tuned. Cool. Cost of
debt.
debt.
Yeah, I mean this
too much.
Yeah. I mean, this actually doesn't mean if you go into a mortgage company and want to get a mortgage. This is actually more referring to a lot of people obviously have the mindset before property or entrepreneurialism that all debt is bad. That's how some people are wired. But this is actually more referring to sometimes it's good to take on debt to pay down debt. And now what I mean by this is we did a bit of an exercise today. Sorry, not today. This week in Central Suites, where we had a debt facility that we were putting off drawing down because we didn't need it, and it was principally agreed, and we could have closed it off and drawn down the funds. But actually, when we looked at our total debt book, we had some equity in another project, equity debt, that we could pay down at a higher cost and draw down the cheaper debt at a lower cost. So it's just a process to say that just because you've got debt in your business and you want to pay it off immediately is a really, really good solution to be doing, and sort of clear the decks of the debt as best you can. But also borrowing from another source and paying down debt is also an option. So just something to be clear of, and maybe worthwhile once a quarter looking through your business debt and seeing if you can actually replace that debt for a cheaper cost, because that is a process that we should be doing in our businesses. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys do this, but Ben and I did it in our business a few months ago, and I do this personally. Go through your overheads that are just on direct debits in your bank account. Go, do I need that? Do I need to be spending that every month? Could I get it any cheaper? Or alternatively, my favorite, call them and ask them if you can get it cheaper. I actually had a call with O2 this morning. I called them up and I said, I think I'm leaving. Can you change my can you change my payment plan on my phone? And ended up getting it at about £12 cheaper per month. So go through your debt book, go through your cost book, and see if you can sort of turn the screw on saving costs in your business and personally. And if you've got debt, could you get it cheaper? Could you go, actually, what would it cost to pay that back? And they go, well, there's no early redemption to pay that back. And you go and get debt from another source, a new source that's cheaper. You might be able to financially be in a better position month to month. So just something to consider. And the cost of debt is probably more important than the if you've got the debt, you've got the debt. There's no way two ways about that. You can pay it off, or you're paying the interest on it. So if you can pay down the interest on a lower amount, it's something to consider in the short term.
Nice. Cool. And then some good news. If you are a regular viewer or listener, you'd have known that we've been up and down with XP surveys over the last couple of years. It's a fledgling business. It's now coming up to 4 years young, I think. And we've grown year on year, but it hasn't necessarily been as profitable as it should be, for example, which is often the case. And you'd have heard us talk about kind of that sort of crossing the desert or finding or reaching the max capacity or the sweet spot basically of a business. And the startup, the first few years of any new business is always going to be quite tricky. Often you'll find the first year might be profitable because you're lean and you're a small team. As you then start to grow, your revenue might go up, but your bottom line profit might actually not be profit. It might go into a loss-making position where you're investing in growth, investing in resourcing, investing in tech, investing in team, all that type of stuff. And that's been really true with XP surveys, where the first couple of years we've gained a bit of market share. We've installed and spent money on the technology to get instant quoting at your fingertips when you're on our website, redo the website, bring in more team. But this so in January and February, we've had our best months on record, basically. All of that hard work that we've been putting in, all this new systems and processes that we've been putting in place, the new people we've brought into the team. We brought in Trevor as a business development manager 6+ months ago, I guess. And the benefit of having him on board is really starting to show through. So we've done 60 surveys in 2025 so far. The average turnaround time of survey to output drawing is just 6 days. To put that into perspective, I get emails all the time into Aura from other CAD surveying practices that say, they're a 21-day turnaround in terms of survey to drawing output. And that's not good enough for us. We want to be the fastest, and our golden kind of target that we're aiming for is to turn around everything within 5 days. So we're actually getting really close to that now, and it's been a massive success for everyone in the business, and working hard and working as a team to kind of improve efficiencies and speed up processes and bring in technology and new ways of doing things. It was just to sort of say that sometimes you've got to dig deep, trust the process. Early in a business, you probably will have a couple of years that are reinvesting everything that you make, not getting yourself into a profitable position, but you're gaining a bit of market share, and you're really laying the foundations of that curve to then be a trajectory upwards of profitability once you've sort of gotten through that desert. These are just some of the stats and things that we've implemented. So Trevor's implemented a dashboard for us so we can really track very, very well the amount of new inquiries we get, the amount of inquiries we get from existing clients, our conversion rate for new clients, our conversion rate for existing clients. And all of this data has helped us to streamline the process, put new systems and processes in place to convert more, to get more leads in, and ultimately improve the revenue within the business, but then also give the operations team the chance to hit the profitability that we expect, and that is really now starting to flow through. So if you're a service-based business, think about how you are generating leads, how you're tracking leads, how every part of that sales funnel could be just 1% more efficient, 2% more efficient, and improve your conversion rate and improve on the sales that you're getting through. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I feel like a business should always be and start out as a flat pack engine that you've pulled out off eBay, and you're building a little engine, and by the time it's finished, it should feel like a Rolls Royce Boeing 747 engine that it's perfectly in tune and perfectly operating. I think we've had this business and this engine on a pallet trying to get it running for 3 years, and we've had some successes of it running, but then it's been out of time and taken in too much air, and now it's taken in too much fuel, and it's been a work in progress. But we believed in the concepts, and it's good to start to see it become very independent from the group and be a successful business on its own that we're excited to keep growing. And I just goes to say, on the Goldman Sachs, they said that one of the most important things in any business is to run a dashboard. It's because then you're monitoring that engine. It's kind of like your dashboard of your engine of your car to see when you are running out of oil, or when it's close to overheating, or when you need to pick up more speed because you're losing the race. So yeah, I mean, it's been a joy, and big thanks to our clients that have given us work over the years. And it's amazing to see us be the busiest that we've ever been, but still be the quickest in the industry. And that's been the foundations of why we set up the business and continue to tweak and grow it.
That's a really good point that I think people need to take away from this. If you can continue to grow your existing pool of clients, having that inertia to find new clients and spend money on acquiring new clients is just so costly and so time consuming. If you can keep your existing clients happy and get more work from them, you've already done the hard work of acquiring them as a client. The cost to then get a new job through from them to quote for is far less than what it would be getting the new clients. So you've already made that efficiency in the sale, and ultimately a business like this is bred from repeat custom. And you can see on the right hand side here, if you look at our dashboard, between November, December, January, Feb, or October and November last year, we were at about 22 to 23 quotes per month for existing clients. December we did 25, January we did 32, February we did 46 for existing clients. So that just goes to show the trajectory of not only our clients understanding how we work and we understanding them, but them being super happy with the service that they're being provided, and therefore coming back for more quotes and more quotes, and that's that's all we can ask for. So yeah, sometimes a lot of the time it's easier to retain existing clients and upsell to existing clients than it is to go out and acquire completely new business. Cool. Things like this that we talk about on a weekly basis within these podcasts are obviously amplified significantly when you are in a one-to-one coaching call or mentoring session with Jack or I, for example. We spoke earlier about getting to your goals quicker by having somebody that's already been there, already done that, help you and pull you up to that stage. And that's what we've tried to do with our one-to-one consultancy and mentoring. This month was our best performing month in terms of coaching calls. I think between Jack and I, we've done over 10 one-to-one sessions this month, which is amazing. And we love doing them. We love kind of helping and guiding and feeding back some of the mistakes that we've made over the last 7-8 years in business. And if we don't know the answers, I'm sure we know somebody who does. Like Jack says, we've spent a lot of money on our own education in the past. We've probably done 20 years worth of work of business in the last 8 years because we're just so active and so we do everything at 2 times speed. So if you're interested in growing your service-based business, if you want to be a better developer, if you're starting your development business, if you want to understand about HMO investments or flipping properties, we've done it. We've been there and done that. So if you want to learn from us, we do have various packages on our website. We just have ad hoc 1 hour, £300 plus VAT sessions. We have a package where we can discount that £300. If you buy a bulk package of 4 hours, it's £1,000. And then if you really want to go deep, looking at business strategy or planning for your year ahead, or pivoting or twisting into a new sector, and you want 4 hours in person with Jack and I, where it's way more intimate, way more strategic in terms of the information that we can share, and a longer time frame to really get stuck into your businesses. Then we also offer a package which is £2,500 plus VAT for that 4 hour session in person with Jack and I. So yeah, if you're interested in growing your business and learning from us, then do reach out. Cool. What are the options? Simple dilemma, problem solving.
This has actually came about because the way I look at every problem or any issue or anything that's got to be a cost. So if you've got to do, for an example, let's say you want to resurface your garden. Okay, you could turf it, you could put fake grass down, you could put decking down, you could put a patio down, or you could concrete it, or you could shingle it. There's 6 options, for an example. I don't know how anyone goes through any decision process without actually considering 3 options as a minimum, because we believe for every problem or for every request of problem, there's 3 things that you can do to overcome it. And it's really because someone in our team turned to me and said, we've got a bit of a dilemma in this particular property. This is what the plumbers propose that we need to do. And my simple question back to that was actually, what other options do we have? You can't give me one option and for me to make a decision. It's kind of like going up to an all-inclusive holiday bar and going, can I have a drink, please? And then they say, yeah, sure. And then you say, well, what can I have? And they say pina colada. I don't know if that's going to be my favorite choice out of the whole menu. You need all the options delivered to you. And that's really, really important for decision making, because then you can make strategic decisions. Obviously, we're often reporting back to investors. So quite frequently, we'll have 3 options. We will pick our favorite and we will then put the 3 options to the investor and say, this is what we think we should do. But any scenario, any dilemma, any problem, think of the 3 solutions, and I'm sure one of them will stand out as the right solution. Lando, you're on mute, Ben. Blue skies and green fields is what we're sharing here, but we have a new land deal. We have been working on for some time now, months actually. It's progressing very quickly, and we're super excited to be one day sharing exactly what it looks like, and so our listeners can see that we do new build, and we can do land deals that we've just by nature been more competitive at conversions of late. But it is open for investment. So it's just a bit of a shout out. If you've been wanting to collaborate with us in projects, it's a very sexy land deal that we are currently capital raising for. It's actually quite a small ticket that we can start with. So if in doubt, please do reach out, and we'd love to discuss it in more detail. Anything to add, Ben?
No, all good. Yeah, just that we're open for investment, and yeah, let us know if you're interested. Onto the Q&A. Jack, if you could just take this. I'm just doing something in the background.
Yeah. So the first question is, hi, Ben, I can't fit my question in a question box. The question is, if you're looking to buy at buying a house that has a large plot, what are the best steps to take if you can get planning to build another house on the plot before you're buying the property? I hope this is clear and makes sense. Let me know. If you actually listened to last week's question, whoever this is that asked the question, I actually kind of alluded to an easy way to analyze this from a project. So the way that I stipulated is it's go in, get the property under offer. Because what will happen if you don't get it under offer is you'll begin spending all these costs when you don't know that you can strike a deal with the existing owner. Once you've got it under offer, whether that's let's just assume it's unconditionally, you then obviously need to go through the process of getting an architect involved, get a planning consultant involved, measure out the site, do all of this work, which costs money. So I would want that locked in and secured. And then fundamentally, you just need to lean on the right consultants that can give you the right advice to get you over the line in that respect. So principally speaking, I think that answers your question. Consultants should be able to advise. There might be a bit of research you could do as a layman in planning to look at around the site and see if other people have set precedent for that type of planning application recently. But you will find that the council believe that 2 wrongs don't make a right. If that's a wrong application that they don't believe should have got through, you should obviously focus on things that you can get through. So essentially, get the right consultants on board. I personally would still get it under offer, or if you really want to de-risk it and the vendor is open to it, agree a conditional purchase subject to contract. This is a really complicated question from Connor. How do you think global politics, I'm guessing that's just global politics, will affect the UK land development and property market? I mean, how long have we got? I feel like this is probably a really good question for the ground up boys, because Ryan's very
he'd be all over this.
Into like macro, worldwide, Geonomics, I think it's called.
Geopolitical environment.
Yeah, I mean, I know who asked this question. It was Connor, who, for context of everyone, is a big land guy. And fundamentally, he's probably seeing it being squeezed because his exit is typically to big national home builders. So he's probably seeing them put on the reins, put on the brakes, stop as much delivery as they can on some sites. So it is probably massively impacting him. He's probably seen the debacle of Brexit and Liz Truss shoot up interest rates, which means people in delivery reduce what they do, which is why I think that there should be huge space for SME developers in the market, because if we're not supported, it doesn't get delivered. The councils are allocating 200, 300, 400, 500 unit sites because it's easy for them. They get big fees. It's a good use of their time, whereas they're not actually building it out. So the housing supply versus what is actually being delivered is not following suit. So, I mean, I'll give my opinion and Ben can give his. How do I feel it's impacting land development and property market? I feel that net migration will reduce in the UK. Obviously, a lot of people flying the nest and going elsewhere. We're still having babies. We're still growing. There's still death, marriage, divorce, and babies. So people still move. People need bigger houses. People need smaller houses. People can't live together anymore. Like these are all moving factors. I think we're an aging population, so there's going to be a lot of move into more aging accommodation, almost like a big build-to-rent scheme for elderly people, where they can go and have a community and get their 3 meals a day. I was going to say something a little bit more crude then, but I'll save that. Get their 3 meals a day and, get their bedding cleaned and all sorts. So I think that there's a huge space for the aging population. And I think naturally the market's going to go in that direction. I feel that the middle of the market is struggling a bit at the moment. The people in the middle, the people that get taxed, the people that can just afford to send their kids to private schools are the people that are really wincing at the moment. And what that means is the bottom of the market's still okay, the top of the market's still okay, but the middle is really getting squeezed, and that divide will decrease. It'll make more millionaires and more poorer people, I suppose, at the bottom of the tree. I think the market like HMOs, where things are more expensive, cost of living is more expensive. Living in a HMO is the most costly way to live, have got great demand. Obviously, people are very experience-based, given that we've gone into this digital age. So I think Airbnb will be okay. It falls in some form of regulation, which I was massively concerned about. And land just needs a reshape. I don't feel like Labour have done a very good job of changing the planning process. And that I personally feel is where we're lacking the most. So all in all, I think that property will be okay generally. I think there's grey areas within that will struggle more, like mid-level property pricing and activity. And I think we're a little bit more shrewd now. In a growing market, people earn high, spend high. I think that we're going to be in a market for a while because of cost of living and some of the issues of government debt. We're going to be very cautious of what we're doing, and that is a second. Rather than thinking twice, we're thinking 3 times, and I think that slows things down a little bit. So essentially, I think it's going to be more difficult than it has ever been. I don't think it's going to get easier. And I think that there are going to be some sectors that do fall flat on their face and not have a bright future for themselves as far as development of land goes. Like the looks of office, we've now completely moved into a hybrid world where we only require 60% of the office space we required 3 years ago. A 40% drop in requirement is massive. Huge. If that happened in surveying, for example, like 40% of demand drop like that over a period, 40% of the businesses in that industry would be done, absolutely sold and folded over. So yeah, not that bright, but I don't think it's going to be crazily bad generally. I think it's just we need a shape up really.
I only had one other thing to say, and it came out of the back of COVID really, where if we've got all this political stuff going on and wars and it's going to squeeze on materials. We saw that coming out of COVID, where the price of plaster was 5 times what it normally would be because there was no supply of it because of we weren't importing it. So things like that I think will be shaken up. Material costs will increase. Similar again coming out of COVID in terms of labour, the shortage and availability of labour in a lot of Eastern European builders and contractors kind of going home and not coming back, and that increases, you know, labor costs in terms of the UK as well. So that's going to affect the property market significantly if we don't have the people to actually build these, you know, £1.5 million, 1.5 million pound, 1.5 million homes that we're due to deliver in the next 5 years, for example. So yeah, that was my real sort of 2 cents really. It's a big old question, and to be honest, I hate politics. I really just zone out, tune out, try to get on with what we can control, and focus on that, if I'm honest. And I agree, Jack. I think Ryan would be all over this with Stu on the old ground up. So
yeah, we'll ask it.
Pose it to him. Yeah. I look forward to listening to that.
So next week, I'm sure it'll be a lot more in depth than that, because I feel all Ryan cares about is
what's happening in the US and Trump. And,
that's it.
Cool, but you don't really get much of that on this podcast. Hopefully, it's different vibe, more technical, builders. Get on. Cool. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this week's. It's a little bit shorter than normal. We do have to jump off onto another call now. But if you've got any comments from the stuff we've been talking about, as always, drop them down below. If you don't already follow and subscribe, make sure you do click that like button, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and ask a question for next week, and we will answer it as part of the weekly Q&A. So have a great weekend, everyone, and speak to you soon.